Chapter 10: Influential Essays and Interviews. As Belgium's new political party drew more attention, the rest of Europe and the world began to debate the significance of that development. The mainstream media was generally not supportive. This contrasted with many favorable discussions on the internet. Most of the Western media at this time was corporate-controlled and was therefore against any sort of serious consideration of cooperatism. It was seen as idealistic and communistic, except by the communists, who ironically viewed it as just as threatening to their system as the capitalists did to theirs. Internet reporting allowed people to get a much fairer picture of the arguments on both sides. There were many first-hand descriptions of the lives of the residents of Belgium's Alpha City. However, during these times, many people still relied on the major news networks to stay informed and were repeatedly reminded that Alpha City still very much depended on capitalism and money to survive, which was, for the most part, true. Cooperative supporters argued that it was only true because it was surrounded by a world still entrenched in a money system, not because of any inherent flaw of cooperatism itself. One of the most famous quotes from that era in support of cooperatism came from a Canadian historian, Mark Traeger, who summed up the essence of cooperatism in one sentence. He said, quote, "Very simply put, cooperatism is a group of people all willing to chip in equally to make sure the basic necessities for living a comfortable, modern life are handled for everyone in the group, so that they can all have the freedom to pursue their individual, personal dreams." End quote. Another favorable quote came from an American, Robert Chisholm. He says, quote, "A nation that can embrace cooperatism has the chance to truly become a nation of, for, and by the people, where personal freedom and development become the prime focus." End quote. In an interview when questioned about cooperatism, a prominent political analyst of the time had this to say, quote, "The big question is whether it can actually be done, not the benefits gained by doing it. First, you have to ask yourself, if it were possible, would you vote for it? If all the problems were worked out, if someone actually came up with a plan that could make this cooperatism thing work for everybody, then would you vote for it? Do you think that this system would be a good thing, at least idealistically? Everyone living life without financial worries. Even if you're wealthy, you still have financial worries. And even if you tell me that you don't, then what have you lost? You won't have any financial worries under cooperatism either. So, if you still can't say yes to cooperatism, then why? If everyone, including yourself, benefits from this, or at the very least isn't hurt by it, then why? For me, it's kind of like asking the question, if we could eliminate poverty and hunger, would you be in favor of that? The answer is yes. If you say no to that, then it seems to me that your answer comes from concerns about the practicality of it. You don't believe it's possible and therefore are willing to dismiss the entire concept as being wonderfully idealistic, but too impractical and unrealistic for you to ever seriously consider. The truth is, you would be in favor of it if you could believe that it could happen in some sort of practical way that wouldn't affect you personally and or detrimentally. So, in other words, the way in which it would be achieved becomes your concern, meaning you are not so much against the stated end result, but wonder about and are suspicious of the changes in your life that would need to happen in order to bring that end result about. If eliminating poverty and hunger means that you personally, in some way, have to pay for it, literally and metaphorically, and therefore have to make concessions and sacrifices in your lifestyle in order for this to be achieved, then the answer might be no. So the question becomes, what am I giving up here? Well, in terms of cooperatism, what exactly are you giving up? Let's think about that. What do you have now that you would lose under cooperatism? You would always have a furnished modern place to live. You would have the same foods available to you as you have now without the restrictions of having only what you could afford. The same is true of clothing. You would be assured of comfortable modern existence throughout life. The amount of time you would have to work would be less than what the typical individual has to work now in the money system. Most likely, you would be able to retire far earlier. You would have the freedom, without financial concerns, to pursue your passions and dreams throughout your life. So what are you giving up? Now, if you're wealthy, there may be lifestyle aspects that you would most certainly be giving up. You would be giving up a great deal of power and control over others that you enjoy through your wealth. You would be giving up the ability to have people conform to your wishes by paying them to do so. That, it seems to me, is the crux of what you're giving up. You may argue that it is much more than that. You may argue that you'd be giving up your mansion, your yacht, your private jet, your extravagant way of life. But is this entirely true? As far as I can tell, there isn't anything about cooperatism that prevents anyone from acquiring these things. The difference in cooperatism is how you are able to acquire these things, not what you are able to acquire. In cooperatism, those who want to build elaborate homes to live in will, in my understanding, be able to do that. They just won't be able to pay others to build it for them or to employ others to upkeep the grounds for them. They will have to work things out with friends or relatives or with others who have similar goals. There will be those who have yachts and jets, but these things won't be acquired with wealth. Those who have these things will be those who have a passion for these things. They will be those who get together and work together to build their dreams. They will be those who build these things and create these things, and therefore those who deserve these things. They won't simply be buying the toil of others. These dreams will be realized by anyone willing to work at what it takes to achieve them. Generally speaking, those in the money system who have been motivated to achieve great wealth are, most likely, the ones in cooperatism that will achieve and accomplish more than the general populace. They will be the ones with the persistence and dedication to attain many or all of these things they desire. They will be the ones who have their mansions and their yachts. The difference is, cooperatism doesn't penalize or put at a disadvantage those who are not inclined to be ambitious, those who simply want to do their fair share and be able to enjoy other aspects of life. And that is the point. It doesn't penalize those who aren't talented at making money or who have no interest in it. The money system forces us all to play the game, whether we want to or not. Cooperatism frees everyone from this. It makes all of life accessible to everyone all the time. Simply choose your direction and go, changing direction as often as you wish, without financial penalties or setbacks. Why wouldn't we say yes to this system? Those who would still be against it, I ask, why? Are their objections simply a product of lifelong programming? What is the switch in their brain that holds them back from saying, hey, if this can work, isn't this a good thing for everybody, including me and for future generations? If everyone said yes, here is what I think would happen. We would work out the problems. We would come up with the solutions. Humanity would find a way to make it happen. End quote. Another famous quote of the time was attributed to Benjamin Cozart, a member of the League in the Netherlands. Quote, how much of an income would you need in the money system? What kind of career or business would you need to work at? How many years of your life would you need to spend training for and working that career or that business? And how much financial planning and worry would it take to maintain the kind of standard of living and lifestyle that you would have in cooperatism automatically for free? End quote. He was also attributed with this thought, quote, cooperatism starts everyone out on an even playing field without hurting those who have a desire to achieve or accomplish more. They are not restricted. In fact, they are much less restricted than they would be in a capitalistic format. For them to feel that they have some sort of advantage in the capitalistic system is a misunderstanding of cooperatism. End quote. In an interview in a prominent American magazine at the time, a popular female movie star, Kate Carlson, had this to say, quote, people seem to hesitate because they fear losing any advantage that they have worked so hard to secure. They feel that their money gives them security and protection of their way of life and their loved ones. And in the capitalistic system, this is true, however tentative that security and protection may be. But if cooperatism eliminates this need, then isn't that a good thing? Witness the constant battles between unions and management for advantages and safeguards and assurances and rights, trying to protect themselves from being taken advantage of and being played, losing the upper hand. On a more domestic level, think of the equally bitter battles that occur even between family members over various money matters, such as inheritance issues. This is what the money system brings to a society. We all have to start thinking outside the box. Think outside our economic box. Money and finances and economics have become our religion. We spend more of our lives thinking about and trying to manipulate our economic situation than we do practicing our spiritual beliefs. End quote. The following anonymous quote was widely circulated on the internet during these times. Quote, people are not generally rewarded financially for living good, ethical lives. They may be given a pat on the back, but more often than not, they lose out financially because they chose to do the right thing instead of the profitable thing. End quote. On a popular talk show, the idea of gift giving was raised. The guest at the time, a cooperative supporter, responded with this comment, quote, well, we tend to associate the idea of gift giving with spending money. It has been so ingrained into our society. It's about how much we spend. We seem to have forgotten that gifts do not have to be purchased. Something of mine I freely give to you. I don't think gift giving will disappear in a cooperative system, but rather it will be far more meaningful. It won't be about how much I spend, but about how much it means. End quote. In a popular sailing magazine interview, the interviewer raised the concern that the America's Cup race, along with other similar heavily funded sports such as car racing, would disappear in a cooperativist environment for lack of funding. Jack Muckworthy, a veteran crew member of the America's Cup race, replied with this, Quote, no, it would simply be voluntary. People would do it because they have to. It's in their blood. Like me, I'd be doing it anyway. I love to sail. I love the international competition. Those in this sport would do whatever they needed to do to make it happen. If that meant getting together and building our own boat from scratch, then that's what we'd do. It's true that this is a very expensive sport, and you have to have a great deal of financial backing. But if all of that went away, we'd still come up with something to sail. And to be perfectly honest, it may even be better that way. Meaning, if money were taken out of the picture, just a group of guys putting together the whole thing from start to finish and then going out there head to head and seeing what happens. That must have been more of like how it was in the old days when this event began. I could see this happening for all sporting events, if it came to that. They would all still happen, just without the need for financing. Competition would continue in the true sense of the sport. It would not be based on who can buy the best players, who can provide them with the latest and greatest means to give them some sort of advantage over their opponents. It would be based on the players themselves getting together and doing what they do without all the financial red tape and rigmarole. Wouldn't it be great? The players deciding for themselves what team they want to be on, basing it on how they get along with the other players or loyalty to their hometown, etc., instead of some wealthy business personage making the decision by the money offered. End quote. Another widely circulated quote came from a Scottish bakery store owner. He says, quote, if you don't support cooperativism on the grounds that it is impossibly idealistic and therefore are in favor of sticking with the money system with the thought that all of its inherent greed and graft and oppression and crime and hunger and immorality and pettiness and wars can be worked out and remedied, even though we have seen no improvement in thousands of years, then I ask you, who is being more impossibly idealistic? End quote.